महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः Namaste friends. A hearty welcome to one and all for today's 21st session of Advaita Prakarana of Mandukya Upanishad with Karikas. In the previous classes, we have studied the mantras from 21st to 25th. In today's session, we will be studying the Advaita Prakarana Karikas from 26 to 30. To explain these verses, we have with us Srimati Mamata Shankar and Dr. Vasumati. As usual, today's moderation, presentation, and deeper inputs will be given by Dr. Hegde sir. Let us begin today's session with a quick recap of previous karikas from 21 to 25 of session 20 by Apeksha. Over to you, Apeksha.
Hari Om. So let's have a quick recap of the last session that was from verse 21 to 25. So in that, the first thing that we learned last time was that Gaudapadaji says that pseudo experience, he talks about the pseudo seeming Advaitam experience, which is a state of experience in which all dualities are temporarily dissolved. So for example, in deep sleep, right, it is a seeming Advaitam, but it is not real, because deep sleep, you feel that you have attained that, but when you wake up again, it's temporary, right? It gets dissolved. Even in, not only in deep sleep, but even in Samadhi also, it is the same case. So that is a pseudo-seeming Advaitam. But then what is the real Advaitam? So Gaudapadaji said that to understand the real Advaitam, one, the intellect of anyone has to assimilate 4 points. What were those four points? They were: the origination of the world has to be negated, the factuality of the existence of the world has to be negated, the appearance and the experience of the world have to be expected, and the appearance and the experience are caused by Maya or Mula Avidya. Next slide, please. So essentially, Gaudapadaji said, if you look at it, the essential nature of a thing will never undergo any change and can never be lost. And for that, a beautiful example of fire and heat was given. The essential nature of fire can never be lost, right? That is heat, right? So based on the changelessness of the essential nature, it was concluded, 2 important conclusions were done, which is that the Jivatma has to be essentially mortal or immortal. If the Jivatma is essentially mortal, it can never get moksha. Why? Because moksha is connected to, we say moksha is immortality, right? Because Upanishads have also declared that the essential nature of Jivatma is immortality. So then how can Jivatma be immortal? If the essential nature of Jivatma is immortality, then what should a Jivatma do to become immortal? But doing anything cannot make you become immortal, right? Moksha is nothing. If we can just, look at this one important line, moksha is just dropping the notion that I am mortal. So all we have to do is just drop the notion that I am mortal, because essentially Jivatma is immortality only. Next slide, please. So Gaudapada now applies this principle at the level of Brahman, Ishvara, or Paramatma. Brahman is immortal means that Brahman is not subject to change, right? That was immortality means. So Brahman being changeless can never become the intelligent or material cause of anything. So if Brahman cannot be the cause of anything, the world can never originate from Brahman. That's what Gaudapadaji explained, right? If the world does not originate and does not factually exist, it must be an appearance caused by Maya Shakti. Exactly like how we create the dream world through our Nidra Shakti. Next slide, please. So essential nature can never undergo change, right? That is very, very clear through the fire and heat example also, and that was taken for the Jivatma also. So mortal jivas cannot become immortal because they're already that, right? So for argument's sake, let us assume Jiva, who is immortal, now becomes mortal, right? And then the mortal Jiva again becomes immortal through some spiritual sadhana. The immortality that is accomplished in time will also be lost, because after becoming immortal, it will again become immortal, which is not possible. So, this artificially generated immortality cannot remain permanent. So, the aim is not to become immortal, but to claim that immortality is my very nature, or to drop the notion that I am mortal. So does Gaudapadaji saying that Vedas are not a good source of knowledge if Brahman is not the cause of this world? No, Gaudapadaji answers this by saying that, not by saying that Vedas is wrong, but he says that whatever Veda says, it should be read in the right context, read in its entirety. So Gaudapadaji says that Brahman creating a world is illogical. Even if Veda says that, it should be interpreted properly by us, and the interpretation is that Brahman seemingly created the world just like how the Veda seemingly creates the dream world. And how do we then properly interpret the Vedic knowledge, right? He gave two things for that. One was MIMASA, which is Vedic analysis, and the second was Tarka, which is logical analysis. And in the next two verses, 24th and 25th, he is going to do that exactly. Next slide, please. So both Mimasa and Tarka establish the conclusion that creation is not an actual creation. So let's look at the Tarka. When we talk about sunrise in daily life, right, we never refer to it like it's a seeming sunrise. Because if we go in depth, it's a seeming, it's an apparent sunrise also. There's no sunrise, right? But we just generally talk about sunrise. So it refers to seeming sunrise only, right? Similarly, Gaudapadaji say, now let's look at the Vedic analysis. So he takes a lot of examples from other Vedas and other Upanishads and quotes them here. So mantra from the Kathopanishad was taken. Previous slide, please. In which it was clearly said that a pluralistic universe is not at all there. And if the creation is real, Veda cannot negate it. And when Kathopanishad, if it is said that a pluralistic universe cannot exist, that means that the creation must be apparent only. Next slide, please. The second Mimasa example second clue he takes is from the Bradranayaka Upanishad. In which he mentions Brahman multiplies into many through its Maya Shakti. Maya is generally used in the meaning of magic, right? So whatever magically happens does not really happen. So that was the second example. The third clue was taken from Purusha Shukta, where he says, Ajamyano Bahuda Vijayate. This means that Bhagwan produces the world without actually producing. So without multiplying into plurality, Bhagwan multiplies. This is only possible by the seeming multiplication through Maya Shakti, like the dream is there by Nidra Shakti. Next slide. So he has given total 5 clues. The fourth clue was taken from Ishavasya Upanishad, and where he talks about Hiranyagarbha Upasana. So what is the Hiranyagarbha? Hiranyagarbha is the firstborn out of Ishvara called Brahma in the Puranas. And in which it is clearly said that Hiranya Garbha Upasana has its limitations and karma and Upasana cannot give you the moksha. Right? So Hiranya Garbha Upasana criticism was done. So if Hiranya Garbha is not the ultimate reality, why? If it would have been the ultimate reality, Upanishads would have glorified it. So the birth of Hiranya Garbha has to be apparent, and thus the origination of the world, which supposedly happens from the Hiranya Garbha, is only an apparent one. Next. The fifth and the final thing he says, which was in verse 25, Bhradharanyaka Upanishad. The Upanishad is questioning who can create this world. By raising this question, the Upanishad says the cause for the origination of the world cannot be talked about. So Brahman can never become the cause of the universe. Other than Brahman, there can be no cause, right? Because Brahman is the only apparent seeming cause. And so he says that is called Maya. It is an appearance without any logical explanation. The more you probe into the creation, the more mysterious it becomes. And our final answer will be, I do not know. And this is exactly what is Maya Mula Avidya. Hari Om Sir.
Thank you very much, Apeksha. That was an excellent recap of the 5 difficult karikas that we studied in the last class. Sada Shiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om. As we continue our study for the next 5 karikas, let us look back into what is the Tatparyam. Tatparyam means what is the essence that Gaudapadacharya through these Mandukya karikas is trying to teach us. That means as we go through today's class, what is that which we should keep in the background of our minds? The background is we are studying Mandukya Upanishad. Like all Upanishads, Mandukya Upanishad also makes an inquiry into the truth. The Sanskrit word for inquiry is called vichara. Vichara means through a form of a master-student dialogue, all the Upanishads want us to understand 3 things. What is this jiva? What is my true nature? What is this jagat? What is this Ishvara? Next slide, please. And in the next slide, that we will see what is unique about Mandukya Upanishad is the same inquiry about our true nature will go through Omkara Vichara. So we not only have Atma Vichara, which is done in all Upanishads, we also have Omkara Vichara. And Om is another word for Brahman. In fact, Om is also called Pranava. It is an ideal name for Brahman, both the Saguna and the Nirguna. This Upanishad is called Sutra Bhuta. In 12 mantras, the entire teaching is given. And the second mantra itself, we have this Mahavakya, Ayam Atma Brahma. That means once you inquire into the true nature of who you are, you identify I am Brahman, I am Omkara, and I am one with everything. Next one, please. We have now reached the third chapter of the Mandukya Karika called the Advaita Prakarana. In the Mandukya, we will see we don't live in one world, we live in 3 worlds. That is why it is also called Tripura. That means I have the real me, which is in the number 4, the bottom line from the Paramarthika. In the waking, we live in one world. In the dream, we are in another world. In the deep sleep, we are in the 3rd world. Accordingly, the Mandukya Upanishads go that way. In each of these 3 states, in each of these 3 avasthas, Jagrat, Swapna, and Shushupti, our mind has the ability to split myself into the whole world of experience in the waking as Virat, and I, the experiencer, as Vishwa. This is more clearly understood in the dream state. I alone through my Nidra Shakti, create a dream world. And the world of my experience is called the Hiranyagarbha. And I, the experiencer, is called the Taijasa. This is not so easy to make out because in deep sleep, because the differences between Prajna and Ishvara cannot be made out because it is homogeneous. I don't know anything. Next slide, please. We can come to the seventh mantra. The seventh mantra is called the Apavada or the negation. It negates the Jagrat Swapna Sushupti. And this is a very powerful mantra for us to remember, which says, Na anta prajnam na bahish prajnam na upayata prajnam na prajnana ganam na prajnam na aprajnam. Then what am I? The next slide, please, which says, Adrishyam avyavaharyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyupadesham. Next slide, please. Ekatma pratyaya saram. Now we are coming to the most important. If I am not this, not this, not this, then what? I am that one which goes in and through everything. Prapanchopashamam. The Upanishad says this world that I experience is not as real as I think. Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Chaturtam Manyante, Sa Atma, Sa Vigneya. The Upanishad has given its message. But the great Gaudapadacharya, when he went through, he felt that it requires a little bit of an elaboration. So he's not given a commentary, but he's done what is called a Karika, an elaboration from his own perspective. He gave us some 38 verses in Vaitatya Prakaranam, which elaborated on that single word, Prapanchopashamam. All our problems happen in the waking and in the dream because I experience a world outside, which I give a lot of importance to, and therefore I suffer. He logically proved that this world is not as real as we think it is. And that was and it culminated in that beautiful verse, Na nirodho, na shutpatti, na baddhaha, na muktaha, ittesha paramarthaha. There is no seeker, there is no sought, there is no bondage, there is no liberation from the angle of paramarthika. Then he uses a single word called Advaitam. Now we are looking at what is the significance. Again, I'm talking about what is the Tatparyam, what is the take-home message. Next slide, please. Whenever we use the word Advaitam, that means it means although I see multiplicity, I should be able to see the oneness in the middle. Now, for example, when the white light goes through a prism, you have all the whole spectrum of the colors of the rainbow. But it is actually one which through the mind, the one original Brahman going through the mind, which is becoming the whole world. And therefore, although I see multiplicity, although I experience duality, can I come to experience oneness? So let us understand what is the significance of Advaita. Next one, please. In this slide, you will see, can you distinguish the singer and the song? Can you distinguish the dancer and the dance? That is why it is said when you see Nataraja dancing, the whole creation is the dance of the creator. This is Nataraja's dance has got a great symbolic significance for creation. The whole creation is the dance of the creator. That means we cannot separate the creator from the creation. Therefore, what do I see? I see the creation. But can I have that Divya Chakshu to be able to see the creator in and through the creation? What does it mean for me? I see so many people, but I make a distinction between people whom I like and people whom I do not like. My people and not my people. My family and not my family. While I have a sense of identification with my own family, can I have that sense of identification with everybody? When Bhagwan Ramana was asked how to treat others, the answer, he said, there are no others. For an enlightened person, there is no sense of others. When Jesus was asked how to treat others, he said, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. And now this is a great quoted phrase from Jesus. He says, now, can you serve the poorest of the poor as if you're treating God? And when you do so, why he said that? Because when you help somebody, you think at some stage they can help you back. But if you help the poorest of the poor, you know this person cannot repay anything to you. Now, this is what is called love as identification. And so when you understand truly the word Advaita, you see yourself in everybody, or you see God in everybody. This is one important meaning of the word Advaita. Next slide, please. However, this is what I call the Tatparyam. When you study the Advaita Prakaranam of Mandukya, Gaudapadacharya is trying to extract and expound a totally different significance to the word Advaitam. What is that totally different significance? Next one, please. You remember, this is the first Karika. He says, Upasana Shrito Dharma. All of us are lovers of God, and therefore we are upasakas, we pray. But then he says, an upasaka, you should keep your intellect open. If you think the Saguna God is everything, then you don't become open to the Nirguna form of God. As long as your mind is full of Saguna, there is no space for the Nirguna God. And such a person, he says, is pitiable because you are very limited. Karpanya, he uses a very strong word to help us to use Upasana as a pole vault and to go beyond the Upasaka and be available for Nirguna. After giving a very strong punch on the Upasaka, that is all of us, he says, be open to Nirguna. And in the next Karika, he says, he gives you a promise. Atavakshami. He said, now I'm going to teach you about what? That Brahman who is Akarpanyam, that Brahman who has no limitlessness whatsoever, whose limit, Ajati Samatam Gatam, who has attained to that state of oneness. And very important word, Ajati. That means from which nothing is born. Yatha na jayate kinchit jayamana samantata. Next slide, please. A little more elaboration of this. Right in second Karika, Gaudapadacharya gives a promise. I shall teach you what is called Ajati Vada. Now, this is an important word. From Brahman, nothing is born. Although we see so many things that are born, and as scriptures say, everything has come from Brahman. All these verses that you have heard until now, and which will culminate in class today, is talking that from Brahman, by scriptures and logic, nothing really is born. But then I see so many things. What do I do with this world around me? This world is real. It is tangible. I experience it. I can experience with all my senses. It hurts me. You know, as a doctor and as a sensitive human being, there are a lot of painful experiences. Even though you are into Vedanta for a long time, it becomes extremely difficult for you to accept that there is no real world. How do we handle it? Next slide, please. So what is this Ajati Vada? Next slide, please. Whenever you say there is nothing, then other philosophers will come and give their own theories about what is it that is really born. The Sankhya, the Nyayas, all come, you know, if you tell there is no creation, you will not have support, because everybody, all the other philosophers will come to help tell you what you're talking is absolute nonsense. But Gaudapadacharya is very, very firm about this theory that nothing comes from Brahman. Next one, please. But then, what is that I've seen? Swamiji repeatedly says, although I see it as real, although it hurts me, although it is experienceable, it is transactable, it has utility, even an unreal dream world has got all these things. Therefore, can you be open to, just like in a dream, you experience, you transact, you suffer or enjoy, this world, the so-called world, is a product of Maya. And in today's class, next one, please, you will touch upon these two karikas, the last two karikas, which talk about what is called Drishti-Srishti Vada. Although I experience it, the whole dream world is a projection of my mind through Nidra Shakti. The whole real world, the so-called real world, is also a projection of my mind through Maya Shakti. Now, he wants us to come into what is called Asparsha Yoga. Asparsha Yoga means I can see very bad things that are happening around me. I see so much of bad news within my family and outside my family, and it hurts me. Swami Anubhavananda repeatedly says, whatever I give a lot of importance to, that something is going to hurt you. And all these Drishti-Srishti Vada, Prapanchopashamam, Ajati Vada is to tell you only one thing: don't give too much importance. These are projections. You are of a higher order of reality. You are Asparsha. You are untouchable. Nobody can touch you, just like the bad events of the dream cannot really affect you. Next one, please. So very quickly, I will touch on a few terms. One is Ajati Vada, no real creation. Asparsha Yoga, I am of a higher order of reality. To understand it from now on, we come to a new concept called Amani Bhava. You know, all these things happen only in Jagrat and Swapna, in waking and dream, when the mind is there. And therefore, in deep sleep, you're not affected. So can you use certain mind mastery techniques? Let us see what is Srishti Drishti Vada. Normally, I see when I wake up, because of my mind, I see a world around, and that is called Srishti Drishti. On the other hand, whenever I dream, I project a dream world, and therefore I see it. And if I don't project, I don't see it. That is called Drishti-Srishti. According to certain teachers, Mandukya is talking about Drishti-Srishti Vada. And because the last two karikas today deal with Drishti-Srishti, I will touch upon this briefly once again, even though I have spoken about it before. Swapna Prapancha is called Drishti-Srishti. It exists because I see. If I don't see it, Swapna Prapancha does not exist. On the other hand, Jagrat Prapancha is called Srishti Drishti. I see it through my mind and sense organs because it is existing in front of me. Next one, please. What is the difference between Drishti, Srishti, Vada? We know both these prapanchas are mithya. Jagrat prapancha is mithya, Swapna prapancha is mithya. I gave you that example of, I have a fake 100-rupee note and a fake $1,000 bill. Now, between these two, which is more valuable? You will know if something is fake, both are equally useless. So too, both these worlds, next one please, are equally mithya. Next one please. But what is our general convention? When we wake up from our dream, we feel that the dream world is not real. But then we now need to wake up in this Jagrat Prapancha. That is why the Upanishad says, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Enlighten yourself. Even when you awaken, see this as a projection of the mind, as a projection from Maya, and it is the beautiful creation of Maya, and you are of a higher order of reality. Next one, please. So in Mandukya Karika, we try to say that the Jagrat Prapancha and the Swapna Prapancha as equally mithya, and there is no difference in their mithyatvam. And that is what we need to learn from the dream world, that the waking world is equally unreal. Next one, please. Ultimately, we need to come to this understanding of what is called Eka Jiva Vada. I alone am. this whole world is of a lower order of reality. Everything, including my family, including my body, they all are something, although I experience it, it is of a lower order of reality. Although it can affect me, I should be very clear that it does not, it cannot really affect me. It is only seemingly affecting me. Next one, please. So I see this world around. How do I negate? This is another beautiful understanding with this Tatpari. Now, I see a pot, and Vedanta says, do you see the pot or do you see the clay from which the pot was made? Now, the clay is, and the clay will always be. Just like when you see golden ornaments, can you see the gold? When you see a wooden furniture, can you see from which it has come out? So to see, when you see the whole creation, from the creation, can you move to the creator? This is what Gaudapadacharya wants us to understand. Next one, please. And all our Upanishads say the same thing. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yet Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat. This whole world is the projection of the Lord. Next one, please. Each time before we eat our meals, 3 times a day, let us remember the essence of the Advaita Prakaranam. The Advaita Prakaranam is trying to tell us Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhinaha. For that person who has this vision, everything is Brahman. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The first speaker will be, next slide please. The next 2 karikas will be explained by Mamta Shankar. Mamta, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Chanting the mantra 26. Sa esha neti neti ti vyakhyatam ninhute yataha sarvam aghyaya bhavena hetuna ajam prakashate. Because of the ungraspability of the Atma, the Vedas negate everything that was described before by the statement as it is not this, not this. Therefore, the unborn Atma alone shines. In the next slide, verse 26, that was the literal meaning. Now, the verse 26 of Mandukya Karika, 3rd chapter, Advaita Prakaranam, is based on a Brihadaranyaka Upanishad quotation, that is in 3.9.26. The quotation introduces the whole universe as Murta and Amurta Prapancha, the gross, tangible, concrete universe, like all the objects that we see, smell, touch, hear, taste, and our gross body is Murta Prapancha. The mind, thoughts, emotions, knowledge, or ignorance and doubts are subtle and not tangible. They are abstract and are called Amurta Prapancha. So, technically, gross body is Murta Prapancha and subtle and causal body of living beings is Amurta Prapancha. In the next slide, no, I'm sorry, previous slide. Looking at Neti Neti in the mantra, first Neti is to negate all the experiences of Murta Prapancha of the universe. That is, all the experiences of gross, tangible, concrete universe, like whatever I see, touch, smell, so on, is not Brahman. Second Neti negates all the Amurta Prapancha experiences. That is, everything that is not tangible, abstract things like emotions, doubts in the mind, so on, is not Brahman either. In the next slide, Sa Esha in the mantra means Atma. Sa Esha Neti Neti means this Atma is neither the objectified Murta Prapancha nor is it the abstract but still can be objectified Amurta Prapancha. In fact, whatever we experience or that can be objectified is not Atma. Then a question might arise. If everything experienced is not Atma or Brahman, then how do we experience Atma or Brahman? Gaudapada says, Sarvam Agraya Bhavena. Atman is never experienceable as a particular thing and it doesn't happen at a specific time. It cannot be comprehended by any means. It is beyond time and even space. Atma is either consciousness all the time experienced by us as self-evident pure consciousness as the subject. It is because of I, the consciousness, we have experiences like seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, expressing emotions, so on. But we cannot experience Atma or Brahman. In the next slide, since Atma is not an object of experience that can be easily grasped, Upanishad says ninhute, that is, negate every object of experience until there is nothing to negate or there is blankness or nothingness. And we are aware of this blankness because the pure consciousness or Brahman illumines or reveals the absence of things or nothingness as well. And this Brahman I am. Brahman is the ultimate reality or essence of everything. Just like gold is the essence of various gold ornaments like bangles, necklace, earrings, to name a few. You cannot have ornaments without gold. Similarly, the universe can't be experienced without Brahman. Brahman is in and through all the experiences we have in the world. Therefore, Gaudapada says that we just looked at just now, sarvam agraya bhavena, that is Atman is self-evident with every experience in the world. Gaudapada further says, hetuna ajam prakashate. Ajam means Atma Tattva, that is Brahman or consciousness principle, which is birthless, eternal, ever experienced without a particular thought, is self-evident or ever evident, and prakashate, it shines as aham or I am. In the last slide, to understand it better, looking at the present, let's look at the present Mandukya Karika session that we are attending and trying to understand the session. We say, I am attending to learn and understand more about the Karika. In this learning experience, I, the Atma or Brahman, is self-evident. It is because of I, the Atma, I am able to learn and understand more about the session. So, I, Atma or Brahman, am or aham is ever evident in and through this learning experience and in fact every experience in the world. And NETI approach helps us to discover our true nature, that is, I am Atma or Brahman. Now moving on to the mantra in the next slide, 27, chanting the mantra, 27. Sato hi mayaya janma yujyate natu tattvataha tattvato jayate yasya jatam tasya hi jayate. The literal meaning would be, for an ever-existing one, birth is possible only apparently and not really. Whatever is born again for that person who holds that it is really born. Now, in the next slide, in the previous mantra, that is 26, and till now, Gaudapada used Upanishad quotations to prove, or Shastric analysis to prove, Brahman is unborn and is not the cause of universe. Now, in the mantra 27, Gaudapada is using the logical reasoning or analysis to justify the same. Upanishad says Brahman is nirvikara. However, it also says that Brahman is the cause of the universe, one contradicting the other. Cause of the universe means it involves cause and cause and effect means always time is involved, hence undergoes change. So these discussions would mean Brahman is both changeless and changing. That is, there are two order of realities. In the next slide, looking at the verse to analyze the two order of realities of Brahman, Satohi Mayaya Janma in the mantra means the absolute being Brahman is born and can create universe only through Maya. Gaudapada says, Natu Tattvataha. Tattva means in principle or in reality, and Natu Tattvataha means not in reality. So Brahman is not a cause of anything in reality. In the second line, Tattvato jayate jatam tasya hi jayate. To explain this second line of mantra, let us assume Brahman actually created the universe. Then Brahman is the cause, and any cause involves time and it is subject to change, which involves six-fold changes. That is, asti, jayate, vardate, vipari, viparinamate, vipakshiyate, vinashyati. That would mean Brahman as birth and decay. Brahman, the absolute or ultimate reality, becomes a changing reality, which is a logical problem. So, in the next slide, looking at another scenario, just like seed is the cause for the tree, and that seed is the result of another cause, that is a previous tree. Similarly, if Brahman is the cause of the universe, there must be something that has resulted in Brahman, and it goes on, never ending. And logically, this does not sound right, or there is a real logical problem in this approach. So, logical conclusion would be if Brahman cannot be the cause of real creation, it must be an apparent cause or seem to be the cause and not the actual cause. And it can only produce unreal or seemingly real universe only. In the last slide, further trying to understand with rope snake example, rope appears a snake. Rope can never become or transform to snake. Snake is only an appearance caused by ignorance of the rope. So rope only appears as the cause of the snake and it is not the real cause of the snake. Similarly, Brahman can never create the universe. It appears as universe with names and forms through Maya. However, the apparent universe appears as real for self-ignorant person who identifies with body and mind. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Karika number 28 goes like this. Asato mayaya janma tattvato naiva yujyate vandya putro na tattvena mayaya vapi jayate. Tatparya, for a non-existent world, birth is not at all possible, either apparently or really. The son of a barren woman is not born, either apparently or really. Next slide, sir. If Brahman cannot be the cause of the universe, why can it not be said that something else is the cause? That cannot be said because the Upanishads say that before creation, Brahman alone was there. There was nothing else other than Brahman. Assuming nothing is something, why can it not be said that the world has come out of nothing? Out of nothing, only nothing can come, we all know. The world cannot originate from Brahman, something other than Brahman, or nothing. The conclusion is that the world has not originated at all. Next slide, sir. There can never be a satisfactory explanation for the origination theory because any explanation will suffer from logical problems. Gaudapada's contention is that the origination theory is temporarily accepted until the intellect is prepared, and once that happens, the origination theory should be discarded. From the non-existent cause, nothing can originate either actually or apparently. We all agree with that. From Brahman, the world can seemingly originate, but from nothing, even that is not possible. The son of a woman who is incapable of giving birth can never be born, either seemingly or actually. Therefore, Sat is not a cause and Asat is not a cause. No other cause is there. The world has not originated. But what is seen? An appearance caused by Maya is seen. Is it possible? Gaudapada says it is possible for something to appear without actual origination. There are many examples to support this. The dream world is the most powerful example, and it is given in the next verse. Going to Karika number 29. Yata swapne dvayabhasam spandate mayaya manaha tata jagradvayabhasam spandate mayaya manaha. Tathatparya, the mind spins a seeming duality in the waking state. through Maya, just as the mind spins a seeming duality in dream through Maya. Next slide, sir. In the dream state, an apparent dual world is reported by the mind. When the mind perceives the dream objects, the mind takes them to be real with actual origination. If we can create a dream world seemingly, why can Brahman not create a waking world seemingly? In the same way, in the waking state also, the dualistic world is reported by the mind to be a real one. Turiyam, through our minds, gives reality to the waking world. The mind, through its obsession, born out of ignorance, reports that the waking world is Satyam. The waking world has a conditional reality and has ETU. We all know ETU is E stands for experienceability, T for transactability, and U for utility. The dream world also has ETU in the dream state. ETU is the characteristic of Mithya and not the characteristics of Satyam. Satyam can never be experienced because I am the Satyam and am never an object of experience. Moving on to the next Karika, number 30. Advayam cha dvayabhasam manaswapnena samshayaha advayam cha dayabhasam tatha jagranna samshayaha. Tatparya, the Advaitam mind alone is the seeming duality in the dream. There is no doubt. In the same way, the Advaitam mind alone is the seeming duality in the waking state. There is no doubt. Next slide, sir. The seeming duality we experience in dream is only the Advaitam mind. The Advaitam mind alone is appearing as the dualistic world in dream. Similarly, in the waking state, the seeming world does not exist separate from the Advaitam observer. The world is available for everyone, but the dream world is available for only the mind. Some may say that, but how can they be treated equally? Again, the mistake is thinking of dream from the standpoint of the waking state. The dream should be looked at from the standpoint of the dream state. Both the worlds are available for many minds in the respective worlds. There is no doubt about this at all. To take an example, if I am boarding a train with my friends and family, the train is available for all the people there. I can't get up the next day morning and say the train was so seen only by me, was available only for me, but not for my family and friends. They were very much there in my dream, and that object, the namely train, was available for all of them. That is what it explains. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Hegde sir, and all speakers of the day for your active participation in this divine journey. We shall meet in the next class of gift session 49 on Monday, 14th October. Now it's time to conclude the session with Shanti Mantra. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ